So when I read Romans 13, it tells me to obey the government that may be fine during peacetime and in a peaceful country. But imagine being in an occupied country for 5 years where they slaughter people and kill babies and burn them alive and gas them alive. When you have that kind of stuff, authority is gone. You're now taught to resist, fight. I come from a town where Corrie ten Boom was my neighbor. Did you know that? Corrie ten Boom, who was the Jewish lady who wrote the book, The Hiding Place, she was my neighbor. May 10th, 1940. Great surprise, they bombed Rotterdam. Totally bombed it out. My dad had a small chemical factory there, and it was flattened, you know. And I remember him going on a bike all the way from home out of town, trying to find out if there was anything left. And he came home and he says, "Mama, it's gone." And Mama cried, you know, my mother. My father said, "Hey, we still have our kids. You ought to see the kids that got killed over there." And from that day on, my dad and the whole family got into the resistance. Of the 4 kids, I was the most aggressive one in the family. And my dad used me to deliver messages to other resistance people. I had a little pouch on my chest, and I didn't even know what the messages were. They were secret messages sewn in cloth and chamois. And I would have to go walk to an old folks home or something like that, and they would take that message. And you know, we had no radios. They were all confiscated. Queen's Day, it's the Queen's birthday, August 30, 1941. So I'm 9 years old. And I'm standing on the corner with a bunch of friends, buddies, and we just defied the Nazis. And we were little kids and we snuck out. And defiant as we were standing on the corner by my house. And I led a whole bunch of young boys in the singing of the Dutch national anthem at the top of our lungs. And there was an informer in that neighborhood who called the Nazi Oberortskommandantur. And within 10 minutes, that half-track appeared. They knew who to pick, because my buddies fled. I was just nailed to the ground. I could not move. All you could see around me was a puddle because, you know, I beat him a pants. Fear, total fear. That fear is still with me because I saw them coming at me and they grabbed me and they threw me in that quarter track, Panzerwagen as we call it, okay? And they took me away. And I still see my mother by the window and she goes like this, relating, "Don't say anything," because I knew so much about the resistance, where they were and where they were receiving everything. And then they threw me in this cell. Here's a 9-year-old boy, does not know what's happening. And the next thing that I know, one of these big Nazi officers comes in, and I still see him putting on his gloves. And I knew what that meant. And he slapped me from one corner to the next. I don't know how long it lasted. I was not crying out to God. Those things didn't even come to mind at that point. I knew it was the grace of God that saved me. But I didn't cry out to God, "Please protect me from this." I had to endure. That slapping around, as short or as long as it lasted, the word got out to the resistance, we better get him out quick because they're going to torture him and he's going to spill the beans. Wouldn't you, 9 years old, you know? I mean, to save your pain. I mean, it was so easy to blurp out, you know, where they were after my dad. They were after my brother. They were after the rest of the resistance workers. So that's when they paid this tremendous amount of money to get me out. So don't tell me about being obedient to the government. That's only a government that's in peacetime. That, you know, when I read in Romans 13, it says, be obedient to the government because there is no government that is not installed by God. The Nazis were not installed by God. We were praying for destruction of the Nazis. Airplanes would fly over on the way to Germany to bomb it, and we would pray, God, please help those pilots to get to their destination and kill those Nazis. I mean, love your enemy? I couldn't do it. Corrie ten Boom forgave the gal who killed her sister in a concentration camp. I couldn't do that. But that's the difference between faith and religion. I didn't know faith yet. I knew religion. You see, there's such a difference.